بروکسل، پارلمان اروپا. کنفرانس پارلمانی به مناسبت روز جهانی حقوق بشر با حضور ده‌ها نماینده پارلمان و رهبران گروه‌های مختلف پارلمانی. 16 آذر 1400.
قتل عام 67 جنایت علیه بشریت و نسل کشی. به مسئولیت رهبران رژیم ایران پایان دهید. اتحادیه اروپا، سیاست‌ها و وظایف اخلاقی.
نمایندگان پارلمان اروپا ایوان استفانتس، لادیسلاو ایلچیچ و سخنرانی‌های استرون استیونسون، پاولو کازاکا و دکتر آلخو ویدال کوادراس. قسمت آخر.
ایوان استفانتس، نماینده پارلمان اروپا از اسلواکی، مواضع منفی رژیم ایران در مذاکرات وین اثبات می‌کند که اتخاذ سیاست سختگیرانه برای مقابله با این رژیم حیاتی است.
Dear Madam Rajavi, dear colleagues, it's unfortunate that we are not able to see you in person, Madam Rajavi. Hopefully the conditions will improve soon. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the progress you have made in case of so-called death committee, where in the 1988 massacre 30,000 political prisoners were killed. Right now, one of Iran's henchmen, who was amongst the perpetrators of the dreadful massacre, is on trial in a Swedish court under universal jurisdiction. What we also are concerned about is the Iranian officials' non-compliance with the EIEA on its nuclear program and its negative position showing that it has no intention to reach an mutual agreement with the world community. Once again, all of this proves that we have been recommending to the European Union over the years that a firm policy is vital in dealing with this regime. Even Iranian diplomat was found guilty of terrorism on European soil. The European Union should downgrade its relationship with Iran and make it clear that this will not be tolerated by the European Union. I welcome the initiative taken by the FOFI to recognize the 1988 massacre in Iran as a genocide and crime against humanity. Madam Rajavi, you and your excellent movement have my full support. Your inspiring hope for a future Iran is commendable. Thank you very much indeed for letting us join you. Thank you.
لادیسلاو ایلچیچ، نماینده پارلمان اروپا از کرواسی. قربانیان قتل عام 67 فراموش نخواهند شد. قاتلان آنها باید طبق قوانین ملی و بین المللی مجازات شوند.
Dear friends of Free Iran, my name is Ladislav Ilčić. I'm a member of the European Parliament from Croatia. We hold freedom as one of the greatest values, and therefore I will always support you in making your country free again. That's why I'm joining my colleagues in the European Parliament in the initiative for independent UN inquiry into the 1988 massacre of political prisoners in Iran by the regime in Tehran. The victims won't be forgotten, but we should also not forget their murderers, who need to be punished according to national and international law. Electing the Iranian government is not a matter for the EU, but solely for the Iranian people. But doing everything in our power so that people get to freely elect their leaders and publicly voice their opinion, that's something we are politically and morally obliged to achieve. You have my utmost respect and support on your path towards freedom and democracy. Please endure in this fight for human dignity and fundamental rights, because this world we leave to our children is nothing if the will of God and the will of people is not obliged.
استرون استیونسون وزیر اطلاعات رژیم دستگاه شیطانسازیش را به کار می‌اندازد تا آلترناتیو دموکراتیک ایران شورای ملی مقاومت را بی‌اعتبار سازد. آنها لیستی از روزنامه‌نگاران گوش به فرمان را برای نشر تبلیغاتشان در رسانه‌های غربی در اختیار دارند.
Thank you very much, Alejo, and it's great that we also have Mrs. Rajavi present with us today, albeit on Zoom. Of course, I'm very pleased to be able to join this important event today, and I'm very pleased, Alejo, regarding your opening remarks, to be a member of such a distinguished group of pains in the neck as the In Search of Justice. And it's great that we are all here at this event today. I spent the first 4 years as an MEP, together with Paulo Casaco, co-chairing the Friends of a Free Iran. And after Paulo left the parliament, I went on to chair the intergroup for another 10 years. So it's really terrific to know that it remains a powerful voice for freedom, justice, and democracy for that long-suffering nation. The theocratic regime has a team in Vienna this week, again trying to hoodwink the Americans into rejoining the defunct JCPOA nuclear deal. Under the directions of the elderly and demented Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and their new criminal president, Ebrahim Raisi, the so-called butcher of Tehran, they've tabled demands that are impossible for the Biden administration to meet. They want the immediate lifting of all sanctions, including even those that were directed at the regime's proxy wars in the Middle East, which is something Biden politically cannot entertain. They also want a guarantee that no future US administration would ever again withdraw from the deal. Again, a guarantee that no president would be able to give. Meanwhile, the mullahs have accelerated their program of enriching uranium, now at 60% purity, which is only a step away from weapons grade. So the JCPOA is dead in the water, and Joseph Borrell would be well advised to abandon his policy of appeasement of this repressive regime and turn his attention instead to providing EU support for the Iranian people who long for freedom and who long for an end to violent repression. Khamenei thought that by engineering the election of Ebrahim Raisi as president, he would confront the West with a hardline aggressor who would frighten his enemies into submission. Well, his plans have backfired spectacularly. Raisi is a murderer and perpetrator of genocide who has openly boasted of his role as a member of the Death Commission, which oversaw the massacre of more than 30,000 political prisoners in the summer of 1988. And most of those executed, including many teenagers and even pregnant women, were supporters of the MEK. As we've heard today, he ordered the massacre of over 1,500 unarmed prisoners during the nationwide uprising in Iran in November 2019. He has directed innumerable hangings since he took over the judiciary, including many this year. And according to some eyewitness survivors, Raisi often supervised the torture of men and women and then personally attended their execution. So now we know that Agnes Callamard, the Secretary General of Amnesty, have called for Raisi to be investigated for crimes against humanity and for his involvement in murder and forced disappearance and torture. So it's essential for the EU to set out a clear roadmap for the indictment of Raisi and his henchmen for these crimes. There must be no impunity. Having agreed to a system similar to the US Magnitsky Act, the EU now has the power to punish individuals involved in human rights violations and genocide and to ban them from entering the bloc. Surely it's a sacred principle for the EU to condemn the crime of genocide and therefore to endorse a UN call for accountability over the 1988 massacre in Iran and the ongoing violations of human rights in that country. But like Giulio Terzi, please let me sound a warning to my distinguished colleagues who are members of the European Parliament, because I know from bitter experience that any time we make progress against this evil regime, they retaliate. Their Ministry of Intelligence and Security, MIS, mobilizes its disinformation, its demonization machinery to discredit Iran's democratic alternative, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and of course its pivotal organization, the MEK. While I was an MEP, the MOIS had trained agents coming into the European Parliament to brief MEPs and to infiltrate Iranian opposition rallies and meetings. They have a list of compliant journalists ready to unleash their propaganda in the Western media. They have even sent, as we heard today, their registered diplomats to try to bomb and kill us in peaceful opposition rallies on European soil. So please be on your guard. This is a dangerous and ruthless regime who will stop at nothing to silence their opponents. We will win by silencing them. Thank you very much.
پائولو کازاکا، رئیسی از دستاندرکاران اصلی قتل عام 67 و یک خونریز حرفه‌ای برای بیش از 40 سال بوده است. کار ما پایان نمی‌یابد مگر اینکه جنایتکاران حاکم بر ایران را در یک دادگاه بین‌المللی ببینیم که پاسخگوی جنایاتشان باشند.
Thank you so much, Alejo, for these very warm words. It has been really 2 decades of a great struggle together, sometimes hardship, but always the deep belief that we know we are doing the right thing, that struggling for our beloved friends of Iran, for their freedom, for their rights, is to struggle for peace in the whole world and for our own interests of democracy and freedom all over Europe and the world. Dear President Rajavi, it was a great pleasure to have had the opportunity of listening to you. And Giulio Struan, thank you very much for your contributions. I would like to say that what makes me more happy is to see Javier Sarsalejos and Milan Sver to continue our work. That is a work that can never terminate unless we will see these criminals, the genocide team that is still ruling Iran, on a court, on an international court, answering for their crimes, because there is no alternative to this. We are now 73 years after the approval of the first human rights treaty, the International Human Rights Treaty, that is known as the Genocide Convention, exactly because it gave a big emphasis to the issue of genocide. The 9th of December was chosen to be celebrated since 2015 as the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and the prevention of this crime. And so these dates cannot go without us reminding exactly what Javier Sarsalejos said in the beginning of this meeting. It is a duty. It's not an option. It is a duty of all the international community to pursue those who are responsible for genocide. This duty can never be put away. And for those who have, as always in the past, nurtured these appeasement ideas that, well, we have something more important. We have the nuclear deal and we will convince the mullahs to be peaceful. We will convince the mullahs to forget about the atomic bomb. And so, for having negotiations, well, we cannot say that they are genocides, that Mr. Raisi is one of the main culprits of the crimes. He has done nothing in his own professional life, nothing else than being a butcher. He has been a professional butcher for over 40 years. He is personally involved in the genocide. And this is the problem. In the name of peace, they are actually promoting war, because the impunity of the crime of the genocide means that the perpetrators of this crime continue to do it on a daily basis. They do it all the time again, and they are persecuting and murdering the people in Isfahan right now, as they have been doing time and time again. And this will only end when the international community will be serious, telling them, no, it has to stop. You have to come to an international court answering for your crimes. And this is my appeal. I would say nothing else but to join my voice to all of you, to all of the parliamentarians, and to this magnificent team here, and most in particular to all the Ashrafis, all the Iranian people, and their leader, Mariam Rajavi, who is an exceptional person that I think you are blessed to have in presiding the destinies of your resistance. And may we celebrate the day as soon as possible that these criminals will come to court and the Iranian people will be free. Thank you very much.
دکتر آلخو ویدال کوادراس، رئیس کمیته بین المللی در جستجوی عدالت. رهبری اپوزیسیون دموکراتیک ایران را یک زن بر عهده دارد. در این جنبش مسئولیت‌های حساس بر عهده زنان است. این بهترین امید برای تغییر دموکراتیک در ایران است.
It's true that the fight has been very long and sometimes very hard. And we have had moments of joy and we have had moments of pain. But we are here with the same determination, the same energy that we have always had, Mrs. President. So you can count on us as always. The event today has been, I think, extremely useful because it has made clear that the European Parliament as an institution, and many MEPs have spoken today of different political groups, of different countries. It is clear that the European Parliament supports the Iranian democratic opposition. The European Parliament wants a change in the EU policy in relation to Iran, wants a stronger, more determined and more realistic policy, and put an end to this appeasement, to this weakness, to these negotiations that have no result, come to no result, and the only thing they do is to embolden the regime. I don't want to finish without a special mention of the women in Iran. As you all know, the ill treatment of women by the regime is really atrocious. And nowadays we see with horror the situation of women in Afghanistan. And there is a lot of concern and a lot of attention of the media about the women in Afghanistan. And it's right to do so, because it's really dramatic what the women in Afghanistan are going through since the Taliban went back to power. But what about the women in Iran? The women in Iran also suffer repression, oppression. They are considered citizens of second rank, and they are limited in their capacity to develop their individual lives, and they suffer all kinds of violations of their rights. And the democratic opposition we support is led by a woman. And women in this organization have very, very crucial responsibilities at all levels. So it's good that Europe is worried about women in Afghanistan, but it's time also to think as a priority in women in Iran, and to support this incredible woman that leads the Iranian resistance, and it's the best hope for a democratic change one day in Iran. So thank you to you all, and my best wishes. Thank you.